Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports Talk back into the video day, and today it's been announced that Aaron Gordon, power forward for the Denver Nuggets, will miss multiple weeks with a right calf strain. This is tough. This is tough for the Denver Nuggets. And I have, even with Gordon healthy, I've doubted this Nuggets team this year, knowing that this is not the same Nuggets teams we have seen these last couple seasons, and now I think it's just going to be even worse. Look, they're 4-3. Sure, they're 4-3, but I look at their team this year, and I'm not seeing a lot of good things. And now Gordon's going to be out multiple weeks. All right, sure, they're 4-3, and they're a top 6 or top 7 seed in the Western Conference as of right now. Only 7 games into the season with 75 left to go for most teams. But here's the more important thing: the Nuggets bench has been probably the worst bench in basketball. If you look at all the teams' bench stats, the Nuggets have the worst shooting percentage in basketball out of all benches in the NBA. They also have the worst net rating in basketball for benches, and they are one of the most low-scoring benches in basketball. So their bench is so weak. I mean, I think their bench losing Christian Braun really hurts. I mean, obviously Christian Braun is still on the team, but losing KCP is what made Christian Braun a starter for this Nuggets team. Christian Braun he's been really good. He's been good for this Nuggets team, of course, but he's not coming off the bench, and he's not bringing a spark off the bench anymore. He's a starter now because of them losing KCP. So losing KCP wasn't just them losing KCP, a guy who was a starter, but what it also did for this Nuggets team was they lost Christian Braun as a bench player. Now he's starting, and that makes their bench weaker. So I think Christian Braun has done a great job replacing KCP. I mean, look, I still take KCP over Christian Braun, but he's done a good job replacing him. But no one has done a good job at replacing of what Christian Braun did. Maybe Russ, but he hasn't been great. So their bench has been very weak, and now there's going to be a player, since Aaron Gordon is out. Not only has their bench been bad already, it's going to be even worse now, because they're going to have another one of their players that's already on the bench become a starter because of Aaron Gordon's injury. Whether that's going to be Peyton Watson starting, or it's Dario Saric, whoever starts to start at the power forward, that's another player that Denver is losing to their bench because of the Aaron Gordon injury. And Denver's not playing great basketball at all. They're 4-3. They are having a hard time beating bad teams in the Eastern Conference. That is not a good sign. Going to overtime with the Brooklyn Nets. Going to overtime with the Raptors. Yesterday's second matchup against the Raptors, only beating them by 2, almost going into overtime again with the Raptors. The only good win that's not a close game with a bad team this season for this Denver Nuggets team was a game against the Utah Jazz. Quite literally the worst team in basketball. They beat the Jazz by like 20 points. Good for them that they got a good win, because Jokic was an absolute monster. And they were able to get a big win against the worst team in basketball. That has been their only win this season, where they don't have to fight their butts off against a terrible basketball team. You look at their losses: getting blown out by OKC, having a very nice, manageable lead against Minnesota, and just blowing that against Minnesota, them taking the L. So they have really struggled, losing to the Clippers. So this season's been rough for the Nuggets so far, 4-3. I know the record doesn't look bad, but just the fact that their bench has been useless and honestly the worst bench in basketball. And outside of Jokic and Murray and MPJ and Aaron Gordon and Christian Braun, their starting lineup, there has been nothing to help this team. And when their starters get a break, it's really when this Nuggets team starts to hurt. Like, honestly, I want to say this, and I feel like I might be correct. this Nuggets team would have a better record than 4-3, and honestly would look like a complete different team if their starters played the full 48 minutes of a basketball game. I mean, they might be undefeated. If they very well might be undefeated. I remember watching the Clippers loss against the Clippers, and watching that game. What really hurt the Nuggets in that game was when their starters were off the floor and it was the bench unit. The bench unit really hurt them in that Clippers loss early in the season. Watching the Thunder game, I will say they probably still would have lost that game if their starters played the entire game. OKC did an incredible job against them. But then I also look against the Minnesota game. If their starters on the floor the entire game, they win that game. Denver is probably 6-1 and not 4-3 if their starters play the entirety of the basketball game, which is not something you see in the NBA unless it's the playoffs. So they can't rely on their bench, and the team digs themselves in a hole when their starters get the rest, meaning, whether it's Jokic or it's Murray or it's MPJ or it's Gordon. Now Gordon's out multiple weeks. I'm not feeling great about this Denver team. And look, with how great the West is, I would tell you guys that I don't think Denver makes the play-in. But because of number 15, because of how elite that man is, in Nikola Jokic, Denver will still make the play-in. And Denver very well can still be a top 7 or top 6 team in the Western Conference. But to me, I think the more important part where people are hoping for Denver to be is a championship contender or a playoff contender. I don't see that for this Denver team. Maybe things are different in the playoffs because their starters would be playing more than they are in the regular season. But even a good basketball team, in the playoffs needs to rely on their bench. Look at championship teams, they rely on their bench. Look at Boston last year having guys step up like Al Horford and Sam Hauser and Peyton Pritchard. Boston's bench was really solid last year in the playoffs. So championship teams rely on their bench. The Denver team that just won a championship 2 years ago had a great bench. They don't have that anymore. That can hurt you. So I don't see Denver as a championship contender anymore. I think this is a team that's trying to fight away from being in the play-in more than a championship contender. And maybe I can change my mind. It just might be a thing for Denver. Can you make a move at the trade deadline? Because Denver has improved their bench, and it's November, and I'm already thinking about what Denver can do in February to improve their roster at the trade deadline. Let me know your thoughts on the news about Aaron Gordon being out multiple weeks in the comment section, and peace out.